This here is more evidence of the connection of Polynesia to Native Americans. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are aware of the legend within all Polynesia of Maui, right? I found this video right here. Go look it up. Really interesting. I'm going to point out a few things that I found out. And just listen to what this guy over here says, right?
All right. So the reason I know some of this is because a lot of this.
He's going to talk about in this whole video that I've watched. It actually shows so many things that proves that the ancestors of Polynesia did come from the Americas. Number one, if you watch this video, it talks about the mountains. It talks about how the mountains are connected to the stars. If we talk about Polynesian navigation skills, what did we use? We used the stars and the fly and birds. We used nature in order to find Polynesia. And the more I watch this video, I finally realized the reason why why the native Indians, especially this tribe over here, would venture out to Polynesia. And one reason was because they were trying to find where the Milky Way was. Where was the area, the island, the place they were trying to find? Where was the beginning, where the sun set on Earth? You'll understand what I'm trying to say.
Information I got from an arrow priest of the Cheyenne tribe, who was a shaman, who wound up staying with my wife and I for 30 days. And during those 30 days, he shared a great deal of information. I got to hold the sacred arrows, which there are books written about him. He had the ceremony of the Massam. It was designed to commune with God, literally, which they call Maheo. It was made to very specific times of the year would gather to, who was a shaman, who wound up staying with my wife and I for 30 days. And during those 30 days, he shared a great deal of information. I got to hold the sacred arrows, which there are books written about him. He had the sacred arrows with him, and all that's another story. But he led me to the information where a lot of this is all written down. So there were ceremonies where the shaman at very specific times of the year would gather together the tribal members to hold a ceremony. And one of the ceremonies I've talked about at length is called the ceremony of the Massam. And in the ceremony of the Massam, it was designed to commune with God, literally, which they call Maheo.
Listen very carefully to this. This is going to connect to the story of Maui, the Polynesian ancestors. Maui and Tangaloa, as it's explained right here.
It was made to do that. And there was a covenant between God and us. The covenant was shown by looking at star alignments. There was a certain time of the year.
These people studied the stars. Right over here, we're now getting connection, not only how big these native Indians are, but we're getting connection not only the skull and the DNA, but we're also now getting connection through how these native Indians studied the stars.
And this all took place at the Bighorn Medicine Wheel in Wyoming, which I've been to. I don't want to get into describing it, but it's at a 10,000-foot level, no trees, beautiful view of the horizon. It's a stone wheel that has 28 spokes. You can look down the spokes and see certain stars. at specific times of the year.
Look at
So
that.
that was the
Certain
timing
stars.
mechanism, and that's where the covenant was made. So they would hold this ceremony. They
Listen,
would,
that's very interesting.
the shaman would begin by removing the sod in an area, create an outer wall of earth. The sod is removed. In part of the ceremony, people would take whatever was on their feet off to have bare feet, and they literally grounded themselves in the soil. And there's a reason for that. It has to do, and I think it's electromagnetic, but we don't have enough time to get into that. So they say in all the literature and the shaman and Native Americans that I know and have talked to at length and shared information with say that during these ceremonies there were literal physical manifestations of
Listen to this
various
right here.
levels of spiritual beings. And when you do these manifestations,
Spiritual beings. Remember that.
some of them usually start out as a trickster or a negative
Trickster. Do you hear that? A trickster.
force, the force of disorder. And you cannot release the force of disorder to the world. So in order to contain the force of disorder or chaos, you can call it
Chaos.
that.
Yep.
I call it entropy in the book. I redefine it as entropy because there's two forces constantly at play here. And all these ceremonies have to do with creating harmony with these two forces.
We have got to the point where literally...
Oh, you guys can do more research on that because my time is coming up. But what is Maui known for? And Polynesia.
Veered across Hawaiian, Maori, and Tahitian cultures,
What is
Maui is a
known
central
for?
figure who wears many hats. As a
See
culture hero, he's known for his daring deeds. As a trickster, he's celebrated for his cunning. And as a shapeshifter, he's famed for his transformative abilities. So, now that you've met our legendary hero, let's get into some of his most thrilling adventures. But before we begin, if you like this, born from his mother's premature sigh, he was cast into the ocean, only to be rescued by the sea gods who nurtured him into a formidable being. Maui was not your typical deity though. He was a trickster, a rebel with a cause, and his adventures are stuff of legends. Consider the time he decided that the sun was moving too fast across the sky. Maui, ever the problem solver, took it upon himself to slow down the sun. With the strength of his brothers and a magical jawbone for a hook, he snared the sun and negotiated a slower pace, ensuring longer days for everyone. Talk about a daylight-saving hero.
There's a lot of, like when you listen to these stories, it's like a, how do you say it? It's like a riddle. People do not realize that when Polynesians tell a story, that there's truths within that story, right? And if you look at history, it's like the book of Genesis. It's a very small, poem, or whatever you may call it, but it's packed with so much knowledge within it. And what I'm trying to say is that the connection of Maui, right, with with Native America, and if you go and look at the connection within Polynesia, you'll actually find that there are mounds within Polynesia very similar to what you find within Peru or in in the Americas, right? These molds here, and you know, if you look at these, right, these are called the mysterious Langi Pyramid platform. And if you go look at this section, to the comment section, you'll find actually what Tonga's point of view of what these mounds are. And you'll read right over here, it says that the story goes that the king's bloodline traces back to the people that came from the sky, Langi, and they were considered giants, and a clear indication of Queen Salai. They say the same thing. All these Tongans, Langi in turn means royal burial mounds. Tonga rule. See, that's exactly what it means. They keep saying it over and over again. Langi, Maui. And This guy here has no knowledge at all about Tongan history or anything like Polynesian history. He's just talking from his point of view, right?
Anybody can build a fully working app
And
without knowing how to code. This is based.
So when the
and I want to point something out, really important. What the Tongan said that they're giants. What does he say right here? Giant hybrid ruling class elites. And if I go back,
I don't collect any of that.
Right.
Okay, so
right
anyway,
over here.
okay, so if you were going to see one these, it's like a half an octagon formed out of 8 lines of piled earth that people lived on, and it
Right over here.
focuses
I'll
in where they
finish the
found.
video over here. Right.
They have no idea what's there, no
Let's
idea
listen to this.
whatsoever, and no one has ever looked at any of it, but they simply excavated it all and boxed it up. That's the same thing that's occurred with Harvard and with the Smithsonian. They have so much they don't even know what they have.
So these warehouses are probably in Tennessee somewhere with all these.
A lot that are 6 feet, 6'5".
Yeah.
Loads of
6 foot
those,
5.
but I wasn't as interested in those. 7 foot is
Right.
really a key marker.
Yeah,
Because-
this is 7 foot.
I'm glad you bring up the Smithsonian because they assert that there was no giants in the ancient world, but like you said in their actual publications, they talk about at least 7-footers, 8-footers.
They call them giants in one of their publications. They say these are giants.
Yeah,
See
and
how-
I've collected
See-
many of the newspaper.
See how you can't trust what science teaches, right? They only want to teach science that you want to hear. But like the out of Taiwan theory. But look at this. If you could look at the history, actual history, it actually debunks this whole idea of out of Africa and out of
headlines
Taiwan
from the late 1800s, early 1900s, from publications like the Scientific American,
Yeah.
New York Times that talk about, they use the word giant.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see 9 foot, 10 foot.
Yeah, I don't
So I
know
know-
about that. I have yet to find, I got to be very honest here, I have yet to find
Would say this is enough.
I think that they were this is not, I'm not making this up, but they said over
Look at
time,
that. Look at the bone.
these giant
rock-
rulers
rock-
became sexually depraved, and their demands of the people became so outrageous that the masses rose up against them and killed all of them.
Do you hear that?
Is in their mythology. The mythology is written down in Smithsonian ethnography
The
map showing
about portals, and you referenced
sacred arrows with them, and all that's another story. But
But I will finish with this one right over here. Listen to this one over here. The first migration was Vahimi's big islands ruined Hawaii. Built on Maui clan's ancient navigation calendar for a distant voyage across Tonga, Southern Cross. Okay, right over here, look at that. The Maui clan's ancient navigation calendar for big distance voyage. And what did I show? What did he talk right over here? Right? I'll just finish the video over here.